Hey, econ warriors and finance fiends. Welcome back to Boss Economics World, where we slice through the government's economic baloney like a hot knife through butter. I'm your host, the guy who's been screaming into the void about reckless policy for years, only to be proven right again and again. Strap in, because today we're diving headfirst into the dumpster fire that is the Federal Reserve's latest non-decision, Trump's tariff tantrums, and the economic recession that's barreling toward us like a freight train with no brakes. Let's go. Oh, Jerome Powell, you sly fox, or should I say, you spineless jellyfish. On Tuesday, June 24, 2025, our fearless Fed chair had the perfect chance to tell Congress, the markets, and the American people that the central bank was ready to cut interest rates and give this economy the defibrillator it so desperately needs. But did he? Nah. Instead, Powell served up a steaming plate of lukewarm platitudes, telling lawmakers, we don't need to be in any rush because the economy is still strong. 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 Tell that to the millions of Americans drowning in credit card debt, the small businesses crushed by sky-high borrowing costs, and the workers staring down the barrel of a looming recession. Let's break this down, folks, because the Fed's inaction is the first domino in a chain reaction of economic chaos. Powell's all like, oh, we need more data, we need more clarity on Trump's tariffs, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, the economy is screaming for relief. Interest rates are parked at 4.25%, 4.5%, a level that's choking businesses and consumers alike. According to the latest data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, consumer spending, the backbone of the U.S. economy, grew by a measly 1.8% in Q1 2025, down from 3.1% a year ago. And don't even get me started on the consumer confidence gauge for June 2025, which tanked to its lowest level since mid-2022. Yet Powell's out here acting like everything's peachy. Come on, man. Here's the kicker. Powell's own Fed officials are projecting 2 rate cuts by the end of 2025, with economists surveyed by Bloomberg pointing to September as the likely start. But Powell won't even commit to a timeline. He's hedging so hard, you'd think he's running a casino, not a central bank. And while he's busy, waiting and seeing, the Treasury yields and the dollar are dropping faster than my faith in government competence. Traders are now pricing in a higher chance of rate cuts, not because Powell inspired confidence, but because they're desperate for any signal of relief. Now, let's pivot to the elephant in the room, or should I say, the tariff-happy toddler in the White House. President Donald Trump has been on a tear, slapping tariffs on anything that moves and then whining on social media when the Fed doesn't clean up his mess. On the morning of Powell's testimony, Trump took to his favorite echo chamber to blast Powell, calling him, too late, Jerome, and accusing the Fed of keeping borrowing costs for the U.S. government high. Oh, the irony. Trump's the one jacking up inflation and tanking growth with his reckless tariff policies, and yet he's out here pointing fingers like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Let's talk numbers, because the data doesn't lie, even if politicians do. Trump's tariffs, which have escalated in 2025, are expected to add a whopping 0.5 to 1 percentage point to inflation this year, according to estimates from the Peterson Institute for International Economics. That's right, folks, your grocery bills, your car payments, your rent, they're all going up because Trump thinks tariffs are some kind of economic magic wand. And it's not just inflation. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, projects that these tariffs will shave 0.3% off U.S. GDP growth in 2025, pushing us closer to the brink of recession. But hey, at least we're winning those trade wars, right? I roll. Powell himself admitted that tariffs are a wild card, saying, the effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Translation, we have no clue how bad this is gonna get, but we're too scared to do anything about it. And here's the real kicker. Powell noted that expectations of tariff impacts peaked in April 2025 and have since declined, but he still expects them to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. So, let me get this straight, the Fed knows tariffs are a problem, but instead of acting to offset the damage, they're just gonna sit back and watch the economy burn. Brilliant. Alright, econ warriors, let's zoom out and connect the dots, because this isn't just about Powell's cowardice or Trump's tantrums, it's about the systemic failures that are driving us straight into a recession. Let's break this down from the micro to the macro, boss economic style. First off, the Fed's refusal to cut rates is absolutely crushing small businesses. With interest rates stuck at 4.25%, 4.5%, borrowing costs are through the roof. According to the National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB, small business optimism dropped to its lowest level since 2020 in May 2025, with 40% of owners citing financing costs as their top concern. These are the folks who employ half of America's workforce, and they're getting squeezed out of existence. Without cheaper credit, they can't expand, they can't hire, and many are just closing up shop. And what's the Fed doing? Waiting and seeing. Disgraceful. Next up, let's talk about the American consumer. With inflation still above the Fed's 2% target, clocking in at 2.8% in May 2025, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Real wages are shrinking. Add in Trump's tariffs, which are jacking up the price of everything from electronics to clothing, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Credit card debt just hit a record $1.13 trillion in Q1 2025, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and delinquency rates are spiking. People are maxing out their cards just to keep the lights on, and Powell's out here saying the economy is strong. Wake up, Jerome. Oh, and don't think the labor market is some bastion of strength either. Sure, unemployment is still low at 4.1% as of June 2025, but the cracks are starting to show. Job openings fell to 8.1 million in May 2025, the lowest since early 2021, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And here's the real kicker, the quits rate, the percentage of workers voluntarily leaving their jobs, has plummeted, signaling that people are too scared to take risks in this shaky economy. If the labor market starts to unravel, you can kiss any hope of a soft landing goodbye. Now, let's zoom out to the big picture. The Fed's inaction, combined with Trump's tariff madness, is setting the stage for a full-blown recession. The Conference Board's leading economic index has been flashing red for months, declining by 0.5% in May 2025 alone. And don't forget the yield curve, which inverted again in early 2025, a classic recession signal. Meanwhile, the IMF has downgraded its U.S. growth forecast for 2025 to just 1.7%, citing, you guessed it, tariffs and tight monetary policy. So, who's to blame? The government, that's who. The Fed is too spineless to act, and the White House is too busy playing trade war roulette to care about the collateral damage. And guess who's paying the price? You, me, and every hardworking American out there trying to make ends meet. Alright, econ warriors, it's time for some real talk. If we want to avoid a recession, or at least soften the blow, we need action, and we need it now. Here's what the Fed and the government should be doing, but probably won't, because competence is apparently too much to ask for. 1. Cut rates already. The Fed needs to stop dithering and cut rates by at least 50 basis points at the next meeting. Give businesses and consumers some breathing room, for crying out loud. 2. Ditch the tariffs. Trump needs to wake up and realize that tariffs are not a negotiating tactic, they're a sledgehammer to the economy. Roll them back, or at least pause them, until we get inflation under control. 3. Stimulus for the little guy. If the government really wants to help, how about some targeted relief for small businesses and struggling families? Instead of bailing out Wall Street, let's bail out Main Street for once. Folks, the Fed's wimp out and Trump's tariff tantrums are a 1-2 punch to the gut of the American economy. Powell's wait-and-see approach is a masterclass in cowardice, and Trump's trade war obsession is a policy clown show. Meanwhile, the rest of us are stuck holding the bag, watching our savings dwindle, our businesses crumble, and our future slip away. Here at Boss Economics World, we're not just here to complain, we're here to call out the nonsense and demand better. So, share this video, hit that like button, and let's send a message to Washington: stop screwing over the American people. Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and keep fighting the good fight. This is Boss Economics World, signing off.